We're gonna see exactly what Asmongold's saying about Hassan joining Cuba and checking out Cuba's conditions, because I'm pretty sure a guy who plays video games all day and says a bunch of epithets towards minorities is gonna have a great perspective on this political sphere, understanding exactly what communism is, because this is sarcasm currently. I think he's a fool. Let's see what he's got to say.
So, did Code Pink's humanitarian festival cause a blackout in Havana, Cuba? So, basically, they had.
Quick answer, no. It was the huge embargo, or not embargo, but the huge siege of a bunch of ships stopping every single trade from entering from essentially what I would call a war crime, cutting off all energy and all resources so that they slowly starve to death and people die in hospitals. This is just an attack on the people of Cuba. It is a way to make communism look like it's less effective while simultaneously slaughtering people by controlling their trade.
Had a, I guess, like a music festival. So basically, this is like, it's kind of like, it seems like this event was kind of like Burning Man for like communists, right? It was like communist Burning Man. And so they all went to, but the only people burning up apparently are the ones in the hospital. And because they shut down the power. And that's what's happened. And it's a good analogy. Let's make a person and a dog, and a person named Iran giving dogs in a way. Oh, I mean, with Iran, that's something totally different. Yeah, it's the Fire Festival, exactly. So let's watch this. Oh, oh, look at them all. Wow. Wow. Man. Man. How about that? Oh. That's crazy. So this is the same woman here. We're in Havana. We have landed our solidarity of humanitarian aid to the U.S. blockade, trying to suffocate the Cuban people into submission. Okay, here we go. Let's watch it.
We're here in the Havana Jose Marti Airport. This is just one part of the donations that we brought. There's 6,500 pounds donations.
Wow.
The value is about $500,000. It's a drop in the bucket for what Cuba needs, but it's a show of our solidarity with the people of Cuba and our opposition to what Trump is doing to try to strangle the Cuban people.
Resist. Resist. Wow. See, this is more logic and morality inversion, where they end up siding with the country that, like, why is it that Cuba has political prisoners? Why is it that Cuba kills journalists and they kill people that are oppositional to their government? Like, I'm sorry, but like the moment that I see somebody running defense for a government that kills its own people for, you know, like basically disagreeing with them.
Again, this is from not only the person that has continuously pushed for the executions of immigrants and protesters, calling them animals, but he is continuously pushing this two-faced agenda that is continuously saying that they know more and predicate their abilities and what they understand as what is more superior in an ideology of establishing control over the people, which of course is going to be execution of Preddy, execution of the people of the protesting dissent, and the continuation of what it means to be an American that is oppressed by the regime that is currently taking place, which is the Trump administration, which has continuously used itself as a weapon and a pedestal to attack the people of which have always spoken out against the corruption. Again, the police in America are corrupt. They are filled with fascists, filled with people who would kill their own civilians, and they are trying to push off the blame onto the Cuban people.
That's the moment that I stop. Like, you should never listen to the morality of a person like that, because everything that they're going to say is going to be retarded. Everything is going to be retarded. There's no consistency. There's no reasoning. There's nothing. It is pure, like, emotion-driven reasoning. Why does she look like a Dr. Seuss character? She looks like the Lorax. Young people in Cuba, yeah, zero logic. Yeah, there's no reasoning for it. They lack the comprehension of actual morality. And so, yeah, Palmer Luckey. Seems a little weird to chant, "This is what democracy looks like," in the streets of an authoritarian country that explicitly bans all political parties outside the Communist Party of Cuba. It's really sad. it's genuinely sad to see these people do this. And honestly, I hate to say this, but I do hope that one of the times that they go out and they go on one of these virtue signal things, I hope that the government there just takes all of them.
He just said, again, the issue is virtue signaling while they're there with aid, first aid help, along with energy in an energy crisis in order to help the people sustain themselves, and then blames it on the government for attacking in an authoritarian manner, that of which has continuously been shown to be one of the most logical things to do as a person who cannot help an entire country without armed intervention, is to help the people of the civilian organizations in order to help uplift them to push for a better tomorrow. However, they are going to push agendas, propaganda to destroy any sort of help that they could have in order to push the agenda once again of an oppressive force known as the regime of Trump and the administration that is currently here that has caused a war in Iran in order to avoid persecution and conviction of their sex crimes, their child molestation allegations, and their continual cover-up of Epstein's Island and their hatred for anyone who starts to speak out about it.
And puts them in a camp. I do. I hope that's what happens. That's what they deserve, because they're running defense. And I do really mean that, by the way. Here's the reason why. These people are running defense for a regime, an administration, a occupation of the government that kills people by the thousands.
Kills people in accordance to who and what's regime in America when people of color are executed just for practicing their First Amendment rights. Again, he is a fascist and a hate-filled warmonger who is going to go out and fight continuously, who needs to shut up that noise that he is continuously pushing and hating against the people for having a better opinion than his hate-filled agendas that are continuously used to persecute the civilian base in America. His identity is hatred. His perspective is a perverted, disgusting perspective of what you're supposed to see as humanity, and he is using this as a continual crutch to lean on, saying that he's in a more moral country, for a country that just declared a war on Iran for oil and then cut off Cuba from their oil access in order to access poverty and desperation for a weaponized propaganda campaign that will be used again for Trump to try and invade a country whose only problem they have is to continuously support their own people through a socialist communist ideology, that of which some greasy cockroach king like Asmongold suddenly thinks he knows exactly what politics are, while he is pushing hate-filled racist agendas toward illegal immigrants, calling protesters animals and should be gunned down, and always spoke of the Iranian people as people to be gunned down like dogs, while he pretends they're liberating people because he sees little images on Twitter of OnlyFans girls from Iran showing off that they are liberated while living in America. His agenda is filled with a hate-filled, perverted, white man's passport bro ideology, which is continuously perpetuated by what they believe to be a justified perspective of the white liberal neo-Nazi movement.
Own government kills their own people. There is nothing that could be more poetically just than for them to face those same consequences, for them to be put in those political work camps, for them to be sent to the re-education camps, for them to be the ones that gets put in jail and then, you know, indefinitely held there forever. That's what should fucking...
What he just described was once again the ICE treatments toward people of color to arrest them based on the identity of them having brown skin and an accent, just enough to get you processed and wondering if you even belong in this country. And I promise you, if you've dressed it up like you do in any other country, say that was Europe, or maybe change it to a more darker skin country like Afghanistan, suddenly the injustices that are there are shown in clear day. They do not care for the people. They do not care to change our perspectives. They are only there to push the agenda that they are better than us for having white skin, a rich background, and nothing else for that matter.
Can happen to them, and I hope one day it does. And eventually, I honestly, like, if I was Trump, I'd pay him to do it. I would. I'd say, listen, all right, here it is. So these people are gonna come on over there. Why don't we, all right, you want the sanctions lifted? Next time a bunch of our weird cringe protesters come over there, Arrest all of them and put them in a work camp. We'll get rid of your sanctions, right? You kill two birds with one stone. Cubans 100% agree? Yeah, I know. And don't let them back in? Maybe you're right. And so if I were Trump, I'd say keep them there. Yeah, I'd just keep them there. And that's it. I hate these people. And the reason why is that they're the ones that, here's the big problem, is that they create a environment where this type of behavior is enabled. They create an environment where it's allowed and people accept it. And I think that's what makes it so toxic and bad, is that they're the ones that are enabling all of this. They're the ones that are pushing all of that. So people have lights. The rest of Cuba does not. Yeah, the new CCOT for lefties. I like that. They're politically motivated. They are. And hate isn't a strong enough word. You're right. I agree with you, honestly. So anyway, let's go back. I'll look at that later on. But first thing, I'll focus on this too. Breaking footage from outside the hotel in Cuba where communist flotilla, Pablo, okay, this Code Pink. This is also Hassan apparently is there. So the entire island, this is what happened last night. This is actually probably the worst optics that one of these events has ever had. So let me explain what happened. So last night, or somewhere around there, Cuba's electrical grid went basically offline. And one of the only places that still had electricity was the tourist 5-star hotel that all of these Americans and Westerners are staying at while they can cosplay as being communist revolutionaries in Cuba. I'm not even kidding you. You're going to see the videos, and the entire other fucking rest of the country.
For the record, this man who is critiquing the ones who would go to Cuba and give Cuba aid while he sits in his room and critiques them with thousands, if not millions of viewers, will never once step single foot into any protest or any activist movement in order to change the world other than his propagandized perspective of continually pushing this hate-filled agenda toward the people who actually get things done. He is not someone who cares about the things he speaks about. He just wants to be heard so he can validate the edgy humor of the white man and the perspective they continuously push with their colonial empire, saying that they had the best options ever by killing and enslaving the people of which who are not strong enough to defend themselves. He is someone who preys on the weak, and when they run out of weak people, he is next, and he is not someone who is wise enough to understand that.
Is blacked out, but there's like that one light on the hill, and that's the light that they're all staying at. It's crazy. Here we go. Watch this. Look. I don't know how many of these videos. It's like Resident Evil, bro. Everybody's gone. All the lights are off. Crash out? Yeah, look at this. So this is the place. Obviously, everybody's doing just fine here. I'm assuming this is the hotel. Look how good they look. Oh, wow. Wow, everything's lit up. It's so great, isn't it? Oh, boy. Useful idiots? Yeah, I know. Isn't it sad? Mm-hmm. Does Hassan blame Israel for this? Well, yeah, of course he did. I mean, Israel, why would Israel do this?
Again, what they had just done by bringing up Israel without any of them bringing it up is actual blood libel and anti-Semitism, since they are now mocking the fact that a lot of people are actually using Israel as a way to push Nazism. These people are hiding and covering in a fog of war for the continual hatred for the people that which they cannot speak out against because they will be clearly labeled a Nazi or a racist. That of which, of course, when you have the people that are currently trending to be oppressed, like the Latinos, you do not get the same backlash.
Audio's broken? I don't think the audio's broken. I'm pretty sure it's not. It is broken. Okay. I need to stop opening it on other pages. I think that's what really fucks it. I mean, it's not really nothing happening, right? But yeah, look at all this. So then you walk outside of the safe zone, right? You walk outside of the safe zone, and now you're in the wild. You've just regressed 1,000 years in technology. Power's out? Yep. Oh my God. Where's all the lights? What happened to the lights, guys? That's crazy. There's nothing on at all. Need to craft a torch? I guess so. Yeah, you exited the capitalism zone. You've entered into socialism and communism here. Here we go. Wow. Wow. This is Cuba right now. Exactly what happens in Dying Light.
Again, this is the only reason he is covering it is because the United States and what they are doing to the Cuban people by restricting their access of oil and resources is killing people, and he is there blaming a streamer who is one of the few of millions of people who would actually go there and help a communist government, but he doesn't see the government, he sees the people in need. This is cowardice from the perspective of a white man, and he is the one that they have always made fun of as the purest example of the most opinionated, mediocre white men who think their opinions matter because in the freedom of speech, their ignorance is allowed to run freely as they use rhetoric that can kill people by pushing the agenda. It is a justified siege onto the Cuban people. His rhetoric is deadly and kills people, and he is critiquing people who are actively helping people. Pay attention to how this man continues to push his agenda through his perspective of what he believes is capitalism and his freedom of speech. Meanwhile, he is going to utilize that as a sword to stab anyone he can in the front or the back in order to use that for his agenda again, that he knows more, for playing this very basic ignorant perspective without any accreditation of a perspective of actual educated political science, and instead pushes the agenda that he knows more just because he is associated with a lot of ignorant people in his viewer base or his ignorant fans.
Right? Yeah, it's like a horror game, exactly. It is. Oh my god. That's crazy, yeah. Dying light? Well, it is literally a dying light. I mean, so what happened is that, obviously, here we go. Angry man goes to a hotel where code pink communists are staying in Cuba. They get to enjoy electricity thanks to a generator, but 99% of Cubans are without electricity after tonight's nationwide blackout. Okay, let's take a look at it, guys. Here we go. See that? Wow, what a nice place. And everywhere else is pitch fucking black. Oh my god. Jesus! Look at that! Oh my god! People are calling it the abyss. That's advanced darkness, it is. Priorities in a nutshell. Yep, there you go, guys. And so the optics are brutal. There's no way they thought this was a good idea. And here's another image of it. I have a friend in Cuba that just notified me that every patient in the hospital that was on a ventilator died tonight. Well, I don't know about every single one, right? It's hard to say, but it does look like that probably happened. So
again, his rhetoric. Pay attention to how people of this white descent, usually privileged, usually rich, usually entitled, said that probably happened without any evidence to back his claim. They are pushing fake news, disinformation, and this agenda they use in order to play this victimized mindset of, again, this ideology that comes from Trump and his MAGA administration, which I call the regime of which a fascist would only see as liberation from, to push the agenda that they are slaughtering people just by going there to give them aid. This is the reason why Americans think starving people out, cutting them off from oil to make the people worthless in their eyes of the American public, and then desperate for any help to make it look like a failed ideology, which once again is being used against the innocent people in the civilian base by some greasy white boy who is pushing his agenda that he knows more against us than he does against them, as the people who are educated, the people who understand why the people's plight are there, because the working class is the social class, and socialist class is always going to be the one with answers that give a real tangible results, which of course is to lift the blockade on Cuba and allow them access to their goods.
So this basically caused a huge power outage, and this is again, like, and think about how sad that is. My mom was on a ventilator, like, what the fuck? Like, even my dad was for a period of time. Like, to just, imagine somebody sitting there in a hospital bed, just dying just because the power's out. It's just that's horrible. What a terrible way to die. And not to mention just how sad it is. So yeah, I mean, obviously it's horrible to see something like that happen. Thinking of there's something supremely saddening and enraging seeing a hospital running on a bare minimum power, thinking about dialysis patients, babies in the NCIU, and others tonight in Cuba. This is a blockade of death. Of course, right? And that's it. And so you've got the entire area is out of power, except for, obviously, look at this. All these people are so happy. Wow. Hospitals will have generators even if they died. You can manually ventilate patients with a bag. They won't all die. Oh, they won't all die? That's great. Yep, and so this is it. The Cuban communist dictatorship had to cut off power to impoverish peasants so Kneecap could conduct a humanitarian performance. It's just embarrassing, man. It really is. How can America do this to me? I know, man. And went to Cuba to fight, only for them to kill a few hospitalized Cuban patients. Well, it's hard to know whether or not this is actually related or not, but it seems like it probably is. We'll get to that in a minute. Let me focus on this first. And but yeah, the optics on it, obviously, it looks terrible, right? It looks absolutely horrible to see something like this happen. And where did it go? Oh, here we go. Irish band Kneecap consume electricity and perform a concert for Code Pink and liberal activists in Cuba, while Cubans face constant electricity blackouts. Man. Man. That's too bad, huh? So they're going around. Is this really the USA's fault on this, though? Of course, everything is the United States' fault. The United States are the ones that have caused all of this.
Yes. The embargo and the surrounding siege that is on the Cuban people is quite literally the purest form of how these people are oppressed and why he is able to push the agenda that every single one of these people deserve it by being communist, and then turns around and says the aid itself is evil. They came there with aid for the people, and now they are mad that people are getting help, and they are denying the rights of the people's basic needs being met by something that they could call alleviating themselves from a very oppressed regime, which they now say is not in a regime, is someone who needs to be liberated from it, but they forget the government is filled with the people, the civilian base, so when you kill these people or you displace them, you are just conducting a genocide. The current government that is currently sat there in association with Cuba is not going to be dethroned by making them all starved out. They're just gonna die, re-emerge a new government, which is gonna be the same one, and then it's gonna go again, and it's gonna be a fight where the civilians suffer, and none of these people actually understand the political science behind this. This is an island that has historically stood its ground against imperial conquest and takes pride in itself as something that could actually fight back against them, while the United States is using everything they can to starve them to death, rob them of energy, and they're using any aid that goes to Cuba to help them as the real issue. These are propagandists that are white, that are like Asmongold, that push hatred upon the people of Cuba and hate anyone who is getting help. They cry out for help by saying the hospital is losing patients, but they hate the people who can bring aid and bring any sort of assistance to them, because that propaganda can be used for advertisement, for more aid, for more people to go there to help them. But of course, it's being completely blindsided by this hate-filled agenda once again of the colonial imperialist white man.
Bad stuff to happen, and if they just let Cuba do what they want, then everything would be amazing. But for some reason that they won't do that, because they don't want it. They don't want the world to see how great Cuba is. And Kneecap and Bob Villain need to be executed publicly for treason. Well, I don't know about that, but I could see them like I don't know, like, I mean, that's a bit much, but like, I do know a lot of people hate him, right? I think it's pretty obvious. All the patients on ventilators in Cuban hospitals died after band Kneecap used massive amounts of electricity during humanitarian performance for fellow communists, while the performers and activists stayed in a 5-star hotel with power. And it's just really fucking sad to see. And let me scroll back down and find the other ones too. And people said that Hassan broke the law, by the way. Like, I don't really know exactly why this is, but I'll go and look at it. So this is the government policy. He says that the government policy is that the government makes it illegal for us to stay where we want in Cuba. We have to stay in 5-star hotels. He has to be in a 5-star hotel, guys. It's not an option. It's just mandatory. So, by the way, Hassan.
By the way, it is actually mandatory that they're in locations that they can be watched, because the United States government watches every single person who walks into that territory in case they defect and or use any of the ideologies they got there in order to attack America, which is why it is such a police state in America, and they control every person like they're a product or a thing that has to be maintained rather than seen as a human being.
Just broke the U.S. law, and he could face a $250,000 fine, 10 years in prison once he gets back. The U.S. Department of State maintains Cuba prohibited accommodations list, which bans American travelers from staying at or paying for over 400 government-owned hotels, guest houses, or resorts. Well, I don't know. I kind of assumed he wasn't staying at one of the ones that was prohibited, but who knows? I guess we're going to have to find out. So, man, it's not good. Can you imagine if he gets arrested for this? That's going to be insane. And, oh, here we go. Is there...
The Irish people were called terrorists for so long.
Oh, here we go. So let's watch this.
The Irish people were called terrorists for so long.
Yeah.
Cubans were called terrorists.
I can't remember the last time Cuba invaded a country. I don't know. Have you invaded any countries, Cuba?
Yeah.
No. I think that sums it up.
The U.S. administration and Trump is forcing a blockade.
Yeah.
And, it's starving the country of the necessities it needs to thrive. You know, like the Cuban people are able to run their own affairs, and they have been doing for so long.
And it's quite inspirational to see after so many years of like a blockade and like America weaponizing resources and weaponizing fuel and food and whatever else, to see the Cuban people still have, you know, spirit and strength. So it's quite inspirational to see that.
Average European,
it's
yes, of course.
to label someone a terrorist because then you can treat them differently, and
it's actually really easy to figure out whether somebody's a terrorist or not. Are you targeting and killing innocent civilians to achieve a political goal? If the answer is yes.
Again, this is a white man out of touch with reality. He does not understand that being a civil rights activist or someone who fights for the people will put you on a terrorist watch list, which has historically been done to African Americans and Latinos, with the introduction of a lot of people being targeted by psych wards, because these psych wards would tell people they're mentally ill for being in opposition of the government when you said black people and women had the right to vote. This is someone out of touch with reality, because the terrorist accusation could then get you killed like Fred Hampton, get you executed and watched by any other civil rights leader, because they'll be intimidated into silence and pushed into homelessness, and they'll be slandered and defamed without any conviction while saying they are a terrorist, with now the Patriot Act being used to execute and kill anyone with the Gestapo force in America, which is the Trump administration's regime. He is out of touch with reality. He needs to shut up that noise. He is a fool. He is a white man with a tool that he uses as his word, which it can be ignorant as he wants. And as his ignorance starts to multiply in this society, he takes no accountability for the dead or the people who feel insecure or inferior because of his rhetoric of hatred toward anyone who fights back against the oppressive measures that America not only does against its own civilians, but it does across the oceans against everyone else.
Yes, then you're a terrorist. It's actually super simple. Are you trying to inflict a large amount of civilian and non-combatant casualties in order to achieve a political goal? Okay, well then there you go.
Try and make the world treat them differently, and you see that in the mainstream media.
Yeah.
So we know the importance of showing solidarity, because they want to isolate all these countries and make them feel like that they have no support by themselves.
America does? No, they don't. I mean, you're talking about Hamas. I mean, why does America not have political prisoners, but Cuba does? Well, there you go. I mean, it's pretty easy to see which one's wrong.
And then
America has historically had incredible amounts of political prisoners, not only to mention Martin Luther King Jr., who was arrested for, again, what they wanted to call a riot and or gathering people. They called him a terrorist. They called him a rapist because they was sleeping with a lot of women. They called him everything under the book, or in the book, and they would have called him again a pedophile if that would have been something they could stick onto him, because they will do anything they can to accuse and push allegations against the people of color and hold people in prison, hate them, oppress them, and frame them as the worst people in America, because their agendas have gone continuously through time as they arrest leaders of civil rights movements, call them all Antifa terrorists, and try to classify even a term as nihilism as a terroristic ideology in order to attack anyone even in between the political philosophies, in order to make them seem as fools or people who are empty inside and crazy in nature. They are again using anything they can to arrest people. You can throw a brick and get a prison sentence. You can throw paint on a statue, and that statue itself is perceived as 10 years in jail just for being associated with vandalizing a simple piece of copper or marble, of which they call superior to the life of 10 years of a human being. And he says it's not political prisoner in the United States of America because, again, in his perspective, he just ignores the countless civil rights movements, ignores the women crying for help in America, and looks for the people in hijabs so he can look to the brown skin to critique and go to the places of Latin American Latino descent in order to push his hateful agenda of anti-Latino rhetoric and anti-Muslim rhetoric. He is a hate-filled warmonger and a white supremacist.
When that happens, then that's when the imperialism takes.
I mean, you have a bunch of third worlders and third world advocates that.
Again, third worlders, if you really look at what that term means, lacking resources and education, and oftentimes predicates itself or builds itself upon of which I will define it, is again going to be people of color. He is trying to say people of color are lesser, which is why he replaced the word with the N-word, let's say, with third worlder, another hard R, because it's again a reference to the lesser, which of course is safe for the internet, safe for people to use, and is again a hate-filled agenda and a hate-filled identity, that of which they push toward the people of color who have no way to defend themselves other than, again, these voices that barely are heard, because every time they try to be heard for the people, they are covered up by people like Asmongold. The fog of war covers up anyone who is a leftist and uses that again to push their agenda that the white liberal or the white conservatives or anyone associated with white identity is protected around this identity that third worlders are lesser people who do not deserve to come to America, do not deserve to be seen as human beings with human rights, and get robbed of the very barely have energy and resources they have in order to push themselves even further down to establish yourselves as a superior is nothing more than an oppressor, not someone who is a liberator.
Think that it's an equivalent lifestyle to have a government that's going around killing their own people and starving them in order to achieve political goals. That's the reason why.
So I think making people known and making people seen is very important.
Cubans and IRS terrorists? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. It's very, very clear that most of the Cubans are probably just trying to survive, right? But like, it's the government that are the problem. By your definition, terrorists and U.S. is terrorists to Cuba. Again, like, I understand you want to try this morality inversion, but that's not really going to work with me. Cuba is a communist country. They don't allow any sort of political opposition. They allow drugs to come into our country. They are a threat in that way as well. Whenever we fought Maduro and we were trying to capture Maduro, the people that were killed guarding Maduro were Cubans. This is the big problem, right? And so if you don't want us to do
So their blood libel in America is that every Latino is a cartel gangbanger, every single one is associated with terrorism, and every single one does not allow an opposition because, again, as you see, the opposition in America is a greasy video game player who talks smack about people who run a country, not play games, but run a country in order to feed the people, energize hospitals, and their agenda is to just drone strike the leadership, replace them with a bunch of people like Marco Rubio or some Republican shill who just wants to grift again to take as much money as possible to say that a white man or a whitewashed person is more capable of running the country so they can turn it into another ghetto that they will then say it's not their fault, it's a ghetto, it is the fault of the gangbangers, the black people and the brown people who immigrated there, and then they're gonna gentrify it, push them out, and call it a white civilization as soon as they get rid of every single person originated there, which is another word for genociding people of color while slandering their name through blood libel.
do something like that, then don't go and do things that put us in a bad position. And that's what they've done. All they would have to do is just give in to whatever President Trump's demands are, but they don't want to do that. So now this is what happens.
Words of an oppressor. Just capitulate, just submit, just surrender your rights, and then everything will be fine. But if you ask black people in America, that's how they got enslaved. You ask Native Americans in America, that's how they got renamed to the Latino. Do not surrender. Fight against these people and fight back. Defend yourselves against the rhetoric. Speak out against the white supremacists and their movement, because as soon as they get called white supremacists, they'll back down and they'll start creating new excuses that you'll see them start to run and scurry away from the light and back into the abyss of their ignorance.
It's a systematic problem here, you know, so we need to put pressure on local politicians to actually look at the real issue here, because you can bring aid to as many countries as possible, as much aid as you want, but if you don't change the systematic structure,
which is the government,
the structures of that country and the blockade, then nothing's going to change. So we need to put pressure.
They performed a forced abortion on a woman who is a political prisoner for protesting. Well, yeah, it's because they're evil. I mean, like, it's really simple why they're...
He went off that with no data. He went continuously with that, without any data, like the people dying in the hospitals, without any support, because his job is to push out disinformation, misinformation. So when you call him out on it, he says, well, what am I supposed to do? Have a degree? This is why they have censorship in countries where people push dumb news by people that are unqualified, because they can kill people and misguide people into positions of which they just support this idea they are evil, and then support a democratic society in order to push an invasion against a country that is not worth invading.
They're doing it. Like, the thing is that, and this is one of the big issues, is that people have no problem dissecting and looking at every bad thing that America has done, and America has done bad things, but the reality is that whenever you compare the amount of bad things and like the how bad it is over here versus there, it's not even close. It's not even in the same universe. And so anybody who is shifted, and also here's the real reason and the real way that you know this isn't true. There are a lot of socialist shitholes that are in the world right now. There are many of them. They're in South America. Some of them are in East Asia, etc. None of these people are living in those shitholes. They live in their nice, comfortable, capitalist, Western culture societies, and then they come over and cosplay like revolutionaries. That's what they do. It's because they don't actually believe any of this. The sanctions didn't block Cuba from trade with the rest of the world. Why does the USA have to supply them?
His idea of role-playing as a revolutionary is giving aid to a country that is desperate for help. What is a revolutionary to a man who sits in his room and drinks Dr. Pepper all day in a filth-infested room, that of which when he starts talking about other countries, he thinks revolution is screaming, we need more war, we need more fighting and killing of leadership in order to establish a war-torn country that can be taken over by a bunch of neoliberals who will invest in all the land and steal it all back for American profit. His idea of what a revolutionary is to just shoot people dead. He is mad that Hassan is not shooting people dead in the streets for speaking out, and then that's his idea of what a revolutionary is. A fool. He needs to shut up that noise, because he does not care about the people. He just wants to play life like it's Call of Duty. He is not aware of how ignorant he is, because America's the only country where you have the right to be extremely ignorant and spread your rhetoric without any repercussions or consequences for your actions.
Them with everything? Well, I have no idea what the sanctions are. I have no clue.
On politicians, you don't see Cuba.
He has no clue what the sanctions are. He has no idea what he's talking about. And yet he is a person who gets millions of views to continuously push this agenda of white supremacy.
You don't see Palestine, or you don't see Iran bombing and attacking hospitals and schools. And
you don't see Iran bombing and Palestine bombing and attacking hospitals and schools, really?
You have to realize that these things don't happen by people who are trying to save you, or people who are trying to bring freedom to your country. You know what I mean? Freedom at the end of a bomb doesn't work.
As soon as people can see the real truth, what's happening here, like Cuba will be a prosperous country. Because
I just wish that we could send these people to Iran. I do. I think it would be a great use of our tax money to send these people to the countries that they want to defend, and then take away their passports and keep them there. Yep, there it is.
And there it is. Remember earlier, which I said, his solution, of course, is to deport people who disagree with him. That is a political prisoner. He will send people away, once again, for disagreeing with him and his opinion. That is exactly the exact regime of which he is saying is happening in Cuba and Iran, that of which is happening here in America, because they're advocating for taking away people's citizenships for being an anchor baby or even being a first-generation American, because they say that's not American enough. You have not been whitewashed by white supremacy or the hatred for other races yet, and therefore you must be deported. They are hating us for all being on the boat of white supremacist made boat that we all want to get off of. We all want to jump ship so we can go and help other people in humane doctrines, but they'll say jumping ship means you should stay out and never come back, because their ideology again is a boat filled with racist, fascist, and a bunch of imperialists that came here to steal the land from a bunch of Native Americans with enslaved labor, and then tell everyone else, if you're complaining about it, get out or get arrested. They want to silence you, they want to take your voice from you, and if they could, they will take your entire body and send it somewhere else. They will push you into homelessness, they will push you into desperation, they'll make the job market completely garbage and unable for anyone else to sustain themselves, and then they're gonna resort to saying, just make a rap video, just make an entertainment Twitch channel or YouTube channel, and then that's the solution they have for you, because they are there on their propaganda and not there with the real solutions of the working people and the working class, which is a socialist that is actually going to give you solutions, programs to help you survive, and he's going to sit there in his rich house, his rich business owned perspective, because he is a business owning rich wealthy class man, and say that everyone who disobeys or makes him feel insecure about his insecurity of ignorance, he will deport you, kick you out, and gentrify the neighborhoods, making it more white, more American, and pushing for the agenda of white supremacy.
Is all right. You think it's so great? Now you live here.
Country. If you look around here, it's one of the most beautiful countries I've ever been.
Yep.
So we hope soon that this will all come to an end and Cubans can live the way they should be living, free and happy.
Yeah.
And the international community standing with you in solidarity. The Irish people are standing in solidarity with you, and hopefully very soon all this madness will come to an end.
It's time for the international community, I think, to give that support back the way the Cubans have for a long time helped countries in Africa or in wherever they were, whatever crisis, and send doctors out. So I think it's our turn now to return the favour.
Jesus Christ. Jesus. Communist, Irish, and Scottish? Yes, clearly. And yeah, what an echo chamber. It's so fucking embarrassing, isn't it? Oh my fucking god. And what a bunch of retards. Seeing dumb uninformed people get like this get screen time reminds me of the dumb fuck Billie Eilish on stage about the land. Oh no, yeah, no land is stolen. Yeah, nothing is stolen on stolen land or something like that. No one is illegal on stolen land. That's what it was. Cuba actually invaded Israel in 1973. There were Cuban tank units fighting in the Golan Heights. At least 180 Cuban soldiers were killed and 250 wounded. Again, like they will never, these people called the Nova Festival partying beside a concentration camp have no sense of irony. Well, now they're partying inside of the concentration camp, so it makes it even better. So let's take a look at this one. Is this the same one? Yeah, we saw this one before. Here we go. Wow. Man, whole place is blacked out, minus like three street lamps. Do you really think they think they're the good guys? I don't. I think that they do. I think they do think that.
We know they are the good guys. We, the people, know that the ones who will go out there and fight for the ones that are desperate are the ones who will come to give you aid, come to help you, and not these white men who sit there and think that they are the heroes just for spitting their rhetoric because they think it's a voice no one's heard before, a white man's entitled position. Asmongold is entitled and privileged beyond belief.
El Gran Bristol, alumbradito.
Man. Communism hasn't worked. Why do they think Cuba's communism worked? It's because they're stupid. They're stupid, and that's really all there is to it. Like, you could say, like, oh, it's 50 other reasons, but no, that's really the reason why. They're dumb. Oh, here we go. This is the boat trip, right? Foreign leftists in Cuba saying that they're in the same boat as the Cuban people.
The irony of him covering this is not realizing if you change that perspective to white people in America, he would not be able to see that this is literally how the United States of America was built. And you can change those people at the bottom with a lot of Irish immigrants, a lot of white Europeans who are too poor to actually make money, and a bunch of black slaves, African Americans now, who are now being used for slave labor, or what we call the coincidental minimum wage, or the wealth gap in America that has only perpetually affected Latinos and black people and nobody else, while he is going to sit here and spit rhetoric that this perspective of the rich at the top are the people of the left rather than the white man who has guaranteed his benefit of going to make profit year after year after the imperialism and conquest of which America has profited from and will continue to profit from, that white men like this ignore the privileges of.
Yeah, guys, like, that's what I'm saying, bro. This shit sucks, man. Like, damn. Like, I hate imperialism. I hate the West. This stuff's, man, this is awful. You believe that? Yeah, we're in the same boat, guys. If you successful business, you should give it to the government. I don't know what they do like that over in Cuba. I have no idea. Watching a pro-Palestine wearing t-shirt saying defend the right to protest with an Iranian regime supporter holding a placard of Ayatollah Khomeini, who murdered thousands of protesters. This is, I think that people are starting to realize that this entire movement of these people are just full of a bunch of pathological narcissists. That's it. There's no actual value inside of any of this. Isn't it obnoxious?
Notice that if these people had not gone out there to protest, then not a single one of these greasy white men would have made their opinions known, because when you go out and protest, it upsets the privileged white class, it upsets the men who think they know what they're talking about, because they have nothing else in their lives other than to push down black and brown people, or any ideology that is different than theirs, because their ecosystem protection system of which they enact overseas is to make sure every single person is a white man who has been whitewashed by white imperialism, and that the idea of Islam is erased, any sort of diversity of Islam is seen as lesser, and they push the agenda of hatred.
Oh my God. Jesus. Choose the right side of history. And it's a picture of Khomeini. Oh God. Islamic Human Rights Commission. What about the rights of the people that they killed? Like, how can you be a human rights commission and you're holding up a sign of a guy that presided over a government that systematically killed tens of thousands of its own people? Oh my God. It just, and how does anybody buy in? This is just unbelievable, man. I don't know what to say. Jesus Christ. These people are crazy. Well, again, it's all about doing what's going to make them feel morally superior. I think that's what it's all about. And also, I saw this. I don't know if it's true. Hassan Piker's glasses were $1,400. It would take the average Cuban 9 years to purchase his glasses.
Again, the perspective of these people that are white in America, they think that you're supposed to strip your clothes off, sell everything you own, and that's true philanthropy of helping people. If you're just extremely impoverished, your t-shirt is a potato sack with 2 armholes in it, and your pants are just a bunch of leaves. That is their perception of the true leftist communist perspective. They are out of their mind and out of touch with reality. They do not know what it takes to change the world. They do not know that the rhetoric they speak puts people down for even having money, which creates the inferiority complex to begin with the socialist left. They do not want to be poor people. They want to be uplifted, but the second you are part of the socialist class that wants to uplift the working class, the rich class like Asmongold will mock you, insult you. Any goods you have, like growing up, they'll say at least you have an iPhone. They'll say that the very basic thing like a phone, the very basic thing like getting DoorDash is the reason why you don't deserve to have anything. They will make sure they push you down, if not with literal guns, with the rhetoric of saying you are a fake, you are a liar and a phony, because you have to tell these people to their face, to their continual rhetoric, that what they are saying is that you deserve to be poor for speaking out for poor people. They are trying to stew jealousy. That jealousy will dethrone people and rip people apart, which will destroy the movement of the socialist class and the working class and the People's Party, because they're going to be too busy pointing fingers at each other that the white man would be running out with the money while all of you are arguing where it has gone.
I mean, maybe this isn't true. Maybe it's a knockoff brand or something. But like, oh man, that's really bad. It is. That's a little fucking embarrassing, isn't it? And where's the protest happening? I don't know. They're oppressed by the freedom that we give them. I guess so. Well, actually, that's true. Our youth are being radicalized in college and indoctrinated thanks in part to foreign funds from places like Qatar. Well, it's all over the world, right? I mean, that's yeah, you travel first class, you stay in a luxury hotel, enjoy an imperial breakfast with views of the Congress of Cuba while Cubans are starving to death. You have to have some nerve. And these are actual Cubans talking about it, right? Hassan says Cubans like not having. This is not true.
It's incredible. It's truly one of my favorite places officially. I totally understand why Will was saying that about Cuba. It's remarkable. The people's resilience is remarkable. There's like rolling blackouts that take place throughout the day, every day, all around the country, right? 11 million people. But today is a beautiful day out here. It's like 75 degrees, sunny. People are partying. People are partying in the fucking streets. I don't know if it's like an island mindset. I don't know if it's like...
Are you really trying to run defense for the fact that they can't keep the power on? You're really trying to reframe the fact that they can't keep the power?
A lot of these people that are so entitled in the United States of America cannot put it together in their head that there can be a socialist unity amongst the people who have constantly been oppressed by an external force like the United States Imperial Corps, who will continuously attack them, that when it's time to roll together again, roll tide, they're going to join together with the working class rather than the rich. So even if they have to suffer through it, they will, in order to show force against the ones that think they can be broken, and that they will turn against the ones who have given them the freedoms they had every day, that suddenly they will dethrone them and kill them. The entitlement of American white men is being shown clearly today because they have no unity amongst the working class. They have rugged individualism for the poor and socialism for the rich.
On is like some kind of like fucking resilience of like imperialism. This is the most embarrassing shit, bro. Like, and also like he's sitting, by the way, is he out there in the street? Is his power getting cut off? Absolutely not. No, he's there with his high-speed internet, with his huge streaming setup, and in his nice hotel room, in his air conditioning room. Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that has something to do with it. I'm sure that has something to do with it, but like they're just chilling. Yeah. Like it's incredible. It's truly one of my favorite places officially. I totally understand why Will was saying that about.
It's just sad, and it's just as yours. At least he's doing something. He's talking shit, making fun of others. Well, what do you want? Like, I feel like the thing is that, so I think that what I do does improve the world. I think it does. I view this group of people. I do. I view this group of people. You just burnt through the Cuban people's electricity for the week for that painful, deafening slop. There you go. And so I do think that I'm advocating for something that's good. I think that I'm making the world a better place. Now, am I a perfect person? No, absolutely not. But I do think so. And I don't think that I need to leave my house to do that. I don't want to. I don't like leaving my house. But, you know, I like sitting here and I like, you know, advocating for and talking about things that I think are important. And that's it. I think Hassan believes what he says. Yeah, I mean, I think to an extent. But most people don't actually believe what they say because they don't live the way that they say. And this is the big, I think this is the very, very big test, is that would a person do what they're doing now if they had the option to do something that would be better? And if the answer is yes, then they don't really believe it. They don't actually believe this. They don't really believe it. Now, I mean, it's an idea and it sounds good, but it's not something that they would actually do. And that's it. And so, like, you know, for example, many people, whenever they say like, oh, well, you know, like I'm a humble person and everything, whenever they get a bunch of money, well, they want to spend all the money. They want people to know that they have a lot of money. They want to be seen as a rich person. And so, again, all you have to do is you just look at what people do whenever they have the opportunity to do what is more luxurious, more beneficial for their ego, easier, etc. And so I've raided with dozens of Cubans living in Cuba. You know what you can do? Invite Cubans into Discord to share their experiences with the government, break the left's narrative. Well, they'll just say that they're all paid or something like that. And I don't want to have anybody identify themselves in a way that, you know, could put them at risk. But yeah, they talk the talk, but can't walk the walk. Yeah, exactly. These people have no problem talking the talk, but they will never actually act in this way. That's not advantageous to them immediately. So that's it.
So we're on the plane now, getting ready to go to Havana, Cuba.
He's going to Cuba, and I hope the
nation has to go.
These people do not give a shit about the Cubans. There have been medicine shortages in Cuba for decades now. Jesus. And I had not seen this woman making videos saying she's going to Cuba, and I help the Cuban people. Only
his first mistake there was not acknowledging the fact that this was accompanied by propagandists who are then news reporters and journalists who are going to push for the idea that Cuba needs the sanctions relief, which has continuously been advocated for by plenty of people who are on that trip. They have been speaking out about Cuba's oppression for a very long time. He is ignorantly speaking of this topic and pushing the idea that he knows what he's saying. He is again another propagandist for the right wing or white men in America, that he is pushing this agenda that everything he says is truthful just because he saw someone that he's never seen before try to advocate for change. This is a divisive tactic to turn people against each other, because once again the Latinos and the African Americans have always been torn apart with the rhetoric of white men knowing best for them, rather than the people of color who have suffered against these continuous hatred and hate-filled agendas in America, with this imperialist ideology that attacks people outside its borders and within whoever speaks out about the regime of America, the Trump regime.
When Donald Trump starts talking about the communist regime in
Cuba.
It's
because people lost interest with them talking about ICE. And then before ICE, people lost interest with them talking about Palestine. And before Palestine, people lost interest with them talking about how Donald Trump is
Every single thing he just mentioned was something that only trends on TV because people went out there to speak about it. He only sees this as random trends that pop out that people want to jump on because he's never been a part of the building of this ideology that has been defending the humane principles of people that need to be treated as humans across the globe and inside of America. He thinks it's a trend because the trend is set by the people, for the people, by the people. And he has never been part of the people. He is a rugged, racist, fascist who is socialist with the rich, because whenever a rich person is critiqued, he is there to defend them without single pay for it, because his payment comes from the game of which he plays people's lives on, which is the ignorant reporting of what he thinks is happening, because his opinionated perspective of the mediocre white man has been heard throughout history as someone who has no idea what they're talking about, and then always capitulate when the pitchforks and torches are at his door, because the protesters realize where the voice was that killed the most people or pushed the most people into thinking that they're inferior to the rest of the white men, and then pushed hatred and division across America.
Y or Z. The reason why they're doing this is for attention.
But in doing something about it, do these activists want to go stand with the Cuban people? If you're in Cuba and you're watching this, they do not care about you. They only care about opposing Donald Trump.
That's right.
And since Donald Trump is working to remove the communist regime that has plagued that island, now they care about the Cuban people and they want to stand in solidarity with them. These are the type of idiots that will run our country if we let them. This is why it's important.
He just called people who are idiots. Meanwhile, he made a fool of himself and made himself an idiot because he did not realize everyone on that flotilla that was trying to fight for Cuba has been advocating for Cuba for decades. Because the sanctions that were placed on Cuba have been going continuously without anyone noticing. They finally have a way to fight back, and they are angry that they are fighting back and called the people who are more educated idiots, because now they are trying to say they know more. They are defending Trump, who hates people of color and has been charged with racist discrimination for firing black people in his Trump towers, that of which again is predicated built on his racism as administration, as he deported people and hate crime people of color, mainly the Latinos, in order to push the hate-filled agendas. But don't worry, they did not leave out the African Americans, because they just have to call them African or Jamaican or Haitian or Somalian, and they'll deport them and call them fraudsters and criminals, meanwhile leaving us all here thinking we are fools for ever siding with anyone in the People's Class, because the People's Party has been continuously divided and conquered by people who pretend to know more and just shit talk everyone, or pardon my words, but continuously talk down upon which the people who are in public are the ignorant ones rather than the the ones who had to suffer all the time, because the people of the public are always the ones seen first, which are the rich people who have more free time on their hands, who have more resources, more education to push the working class down, which of course is gonna be people like Asmongold, and not like this man here who is uneducated just as he is, because he's been affected by the agenda and the propaganda of anti-communist agendas that have been pushed continuously with the narratives and the rhetoric of the Trump regime.
To register to vote and make sure you get out to vote, because these people can vote and they do vote, and they will put.
That's what we gotta fix. We gotta fix that. We gotta do something about that.
Idiots in office who represent the things they want done. I want you to really think about this. Think about how stupid this is. In Cuba, they have chronic food shortages, frequent power outages, extremely low wages. Many people depend on remittances. They have limited access.
Why do they not care about the 30,000 people dying in Iran? Because caring about that would be aligning themselves with an Israeli or American perspective. So they have no problem letting a bunch of people die if it's inconvenient for their worldview.
Internet and censorship. Also, internet is expensive, so a lot of people use like public hotspots. There are restrictions on free speech. Criticizing the government there is not in your best interest. So,
not in your best interest. I wonder what he mean by that.
Essentially, what this woman is saying is,
it's a mystery.
Hey, Cuban people, we're going to come help you and stand in solidarity because Trump is working to get rid of the communist regime that has been oppressing your island for decades. And we want him to stop what he's doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to come give you a little bit of medicine and pat ourselves on the back and make ourselves feel good. Then we're going to go back to the United States where we live comfortably and have everything we need. And then we're going to hope that Trump leaves you alone so you can continue to be oppressed and struggle. So you can continue to deal with
and there is nothing that would be worse for them than for the communist government to fall and for Cuba to be successful, because that would poke a hole in their worldview. So you have to keep that in mind too. It's in their best interest for Cuba to remain an open air prison. They want it to be like that.
On power outages, low wages, chronic food shortages. We don't really care about helping you.
Yes.
We just care about opposing Donald Trump, and you're the next thing that he's talking about. So we're going to act like we care about you.
Yes.
And in reality, in our opposition, we're fighting to make sure you stay in the same shitty position because we're virtuous and moral. Love you, Cubans. These people are insufferable idiots. They will actively make the world a worse place if we let them. And they'll do it while patting themselves on the back, calling themselves virtuous. These people are...
That's what's so annoying about it, right? Do you think that's hypocritical? As someone reminds his channel multiple times a day, single day, they can give money simultaneously saying how hard it is. Everybody's financially struggling in America. Well, here's the way I see it, right? Is that like I've had a number of opportunities in my life that have generated a large amount of money for me. And I also work all the time, and I plan on continuing to work all the time. Like, I don't plan on retiring next year. I don't plan on retiring in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. So if I'm already successful and I'm doing really well now, and I live a relatively simple and humble life, then why do I really need to? And by the way, if I ever got married and started a family or something like that, I'd buy a nice expensive house next to a good school area, and I'd do that for my family and my kids. Now, for me, I have no problem living in the shed, but, you know, for somebody else, I will make the decision that's in their best interest. This is always what I'll do. Why do I really...
He just went down the best explanation as to why men like this are continuously shown to be privileged white men who know nothing of which they are talking about. I couldn't have said it better myself at the end there, because that just proves the perspective again of a very rich, wealthy man who had opportunities given to him, handed to him for his white nature and his white rhetoric of white supremacy. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more critiques of men like this who are white supremacists, who pretend not to be, who talk down on people, do more for the poor than anyone else, who hate the socialist class, who hate the working class, who hate the People's Party, then go ahead and follow, leave a like, and let me know if you would like to see more coverage, because I'm going to continuously fight against this white supremacy, against this privileged white man's perspective, no matter how long it takes, even if it drives me homeless.